Hello, and welcome to Book 3, Chapter 25 of You Should Be Reading. This week, I have a little treat for you. The Devil's Detective by Simon Kurt Unsworth. Now, this is one I picked up on my Canada Day book haul, and it's one I was very interested in reading, and oh, am I glad I picked it up. Am I glad for this wonderful artwork that's very simplistic and minimalistic, but really kind of gets the point across with the weird crisscrossy words, uh, the pipes. You see the little flames and some flowers that kind of maybe look like blood drops. Maybe it is such an interesting book. Now, what it's all about is about a man in hell by the name of Thomas Fool. I am uncertain if the Thomas Fool is any relation to Doubting Thomas from the Bible, or if Thomas Fool is just the name that was given to him. Uh, or maybe it might be a bit of a reference to the very first card in the tarot, the Fool, that is the zero card. Regardless, Thomas Fool is an information man, one of Hell's information men. And information men are kind of like the police detectives in a way. Um, it's their job to solve murders. Uh, that's their jurisdiction. But the really interesting bit is that stuff like this goes on in Hell all the time because that's where this takes place, in Hell. Um, People get raped, people get murdered, uh, all kinds of horrific atrocities just happen in Hell. It's the usual thing that goes on there. So the majority of crimes that get put to the information men usually come into their station in through pneumatic tubes, and each one is has a particular, I believe, a red ribbon around it. And anything with a red ribbon, they just look through it, stamp it with "did not investigate," send it back because it's a waste of time. Uh, but suddenly, a new murder happens, pretty much right on the heels of a delegation of angels coming down from heaven to discuss and go through these delegations with hell about getting some souls elevated to heaven. So there's these visiting dignitaries in town for these very important negotiations, and suddenly a murder happens, a rather brutal, horrific murder, even by hell standards. And the tube it comes in had a blue ribbon on it, which means they have to investigate. So they go and start investigating Thomas Fool and his two information men, a man by the name of Gordy and a woman by the name of Summer. And from that point on, things start changing for Thomas Fool. Uh, things start. He starts to get more realizations as something's wrong in hell, and it kind of goes on from there. And the whole wonderful bit between him having to balance the changes in himself and the changes that he sees happening around him, as well as dealing dealing with the atrocities of hell in a new way. Things get very strange and very interesting for Thomas Fool, and that that is all I'm going to tell you about this book to this point. If this has at all intrigued you in any way as to what it might be like, go and check it out. It's well worth your time. I highly enjoyed it because from this point on, I'm going to be talking about some spoilers. So you've been warned. If you don't want to be spoiled, stop the video now, go find the book, read it. Then when you're done, come back and watch it again. Because from this point on, spoilers will be happening, my friends. You have been warned. Okay, now, what I love about this particular book, and the way Mr. Unsworth lays it all out is that there is a distinct theme to it all, because this is all taking place in hell. They mention several times that while hell has its own truth and its own laws that must be obeyed while in hell, that there is there isn't no hope in hell. It's one of the things that I absolutely love in terms of a literary device, especially for a place like hell, is that there's not no hope. There's always some hope, a little hope, just enough to keep people hoping, to allow them to build up their expectations only to have them crushed again. Uh, and yet, even though their expectations have been crushed, they still hope again because there's still that hope. People still think, no matter how much horrific things they've seen, no matter how much they're put down, no matter how much they're beaten or abused, they still think that maybe one day they will get elevated. Maybe one day someone will save them. Uh, and that is the wonderful thing about hell, the way he describes it in this book. He lays it all out. Uh, there are specific areas. It doesn't quite have a film noir style to it, but it does, because even even throughout the entire thing, I knew by about the halfway point in this book, I knew that it wasn't going to end in a way that was a happy ending. I knew that. Just instinctively, I knew it. But still, I fell into the trap of hoping that that there would be a happy ending, that something would change for the better, even in hell. And that I loved, that Mr. Unsworth managed to pull me in enough and wrap the narrative around me that I fell into the same trap that the people in hell did, that I hoped. Even though I knew such hope could never possibly be, it could never possibly come to fruition, I still fell for the trap that I hoped. Because, yeah, it doesn't end in a happy way. Not really. There are changes, but those changes have been manipulated. And there's some other strange things. There's some demons going around. Um, there is a man who they call the man of plants and flowers, who seems to have been human once, but is changing into something else, is connected to plants and has sprawled himself out over great swaths of hell. So much so that some of the archdemons, the archdeacons of hell, the powerful demons, are kind of afraid of him, and it it gets really interesting and really strange how things tend to progress along this. And yeah, it doesn't end in a very happy way. It definitely ends in the way a book that is set in hell should end. Very much kind of, yeah, okay, something's happened, you're still screwed because this is hell, and this is what hell does. So I liked it. I really liked it. Um, it is one of those books I pick up that I picked up completely on a whim because I'm like, hey, that looks cool. The concept looks cool. I'll give it a read. And it is one of those books that I pick up like that, and I am so glad I did, because otherwise, if I just went by what I normally tend to read, I wouldn't have had a chance to read this. And that's what you should all do. Just get out of your comfort zone a little. Buy a book you wouldn't normally buy. Give it a shot. You'll be surprised one way or the other. And if it's a good surprise, it's a good day. So yes, that's it for this wonderful little episode. I tried to keep the spoilers to a bit of a minimum. I didn't want to get into too much detail on how the book ended because I don't want to spoil things. Uh, but yes, so as usual, please give that like button a tap. Give that subscribe button a tap as well if you haven't already, so you can be kept apprised of when I put out new videos. I usually try and get out something once a week, at least one video, if not more. Try and get a couple. And throw a comment in the comment section. Have you read The Devil's Detective by Simon Kurt Unsworth? What did you think of it? Do you know of any other books that he's written that you think I might be interested in, or any other books that are kind of weird and unusual and out of the comfort zone that you think I might be interested in? Throw them in the comment section. I'd love to hear about them. Love to get a discussion going. So I'm going to leave that there. And until next time, my friends, remember, you should be reading The Devil's Detective by Simon Kurt Unsworth. And I'll see you next time.